Chapter 14. Know Thyself. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Better to be alone than in bad company. We refuse to be alone, and as a result, we never find our true identity or get to know ourselves. Solitude and isolation at the extreme can lead to mental and physical illness, for we are pack animals by nature. The fear of isolation hunts us, maybe because we fear ourselves and the deepest reaches of our mind, hence avoiding our true nature. Perhaps we do not want to know how immoral and flawed we are, so we distract ourselves by going through the motions of life. Many of us cannot withstand isolation, especially from our loved ones. Our social persona is active whenever we interact with other members of society, but in solitude and isolation, we discover the monster we really are or can be. The monster within has the power to consume people. However, several few earn the courage to tame and control the beast within. The beast, metaphorically speaking, is all our self-destructive, destructive desires and motivations that can possess us. Through a heroic effort, by taming our dark side, we can reap all its benefits instead of letting it destroy us. At the age of 20, I felt like a tightrope walker over an abyss. One misstep and chaos would be upon me. I felt at risk of self-destruction, but man can choose to either be like an animal or be godlike. I chose the latter. As I remember my depression of 2018, I wondered if it would happen again. I do everything in my power to prevent suicidal ideations and tendencies from poisoning my brain. My suffering, my consciousness tastes like a sweet poison. I am the bane of my existence, not the world around me. On the one hand, I felt like I was molded by God and gifted to fulfill a grand purpose. I sought meaning in everything, and if I didn't, I felt incomplete. But on the other hand, I could argue that my endeavors and suffering were futile and meaningless. The reason why I never bought a gun when I was younger, though I was of age to possess a firearm, was because I did not trust myself with one. It is too quick, easy, and tragic to fix a temporary problem. I sought wisdom in my travels. That was the sole purpose of being alone in the unknown. I quickly realized that if I returned home unhappy and unfulfilled, I didn't find what I was looking for. I had failed. I was naive and did not realize I was living a path towards a romantic tragedy, not a comedy with a happy ending. I needed to change myself to change my destiny. The unknown is what you don't know, but encountering the true unknown can freeze you in place, sparking curiosity because it lies beyond your comprehension. You cannot fully understand it, yet you must confront it. In dragon stories, the dragon symbolizes a fearsome entity residing underground, often hoarding treasures or maidens. The underlying concept is that the dragon serves as a symbolic representation of the predatory nature of the unknown, coupled with its ability to generate entirely new and unfamiliar information. After confronting your personal unknown, there's a reward you get to claim. It doesn't need to be a materialistic reward. I would rather be a tightrope walker, risking self-destruction, yet triumphant and exceptional in my art, even if it means no fame, money, or recognition, than to be in a job I hate, creating art I detest, and being rewarded with money. The most challenging things bring the most meaning in life. Beware of the envious haters. They will attempt to bring you down. Losers are never jealous of losers. Losers are jealous of winners and envy those who dare to live dangerously to do what they love. Envy is just concealed admiration. You shouldn't lower yourself from a lower status to satisfy envious people. Have self-respect. Those with jealousy die and will die by their sword anyway. The solution for many to avoid solitude is to cling to others like dependent children. One man runs to his neighbor because he is looking for himself, and another because he wants to lose himself. Your bad love of yourselves makes solitude a prison to you. Nietzsche, thus spoke Zarathustra. Individuals who lack strength often seek constant relationships for significance and affection. However, when you find joy in your own company, being single becomes a valuable opportunity. You may think you're safe from solitude, but everything comes at a cost, with the cost being your higher self. You will become a mediocre version of yourself when you cling to others and depend on them for your feelings of worth. It's a ticking bomb. Psychologist Abraham Maslow argued that we must fulfill our meta or highest needs, which are the drives such as truth, beauty, and goodness. Maslow argued that these needs are needs, not wants, and others cannot fulfill them. You can't find spirituality in a physical being, just like you can't get blood from a stone. They're different realms. We set ourselves up for failure when we attempt to project an idealized image of a romantic partner onto the person we are attracted to and make them fulfill our meta needs. When we attempt to get spirituality from a person, we idolize them as godlike, and as a default, we become their slaves. Suppose they can be like God. They can also become the devil. When we become needy for a parent or partner to prevent being alone, we become overly compliant like slaves in fear of abandonment. As a result, we develop a false self, which is a mirror image of what others want us to be. Solitude and isolation can be the hammer to break down our false image and false self to rediscover ourselves. Most people are unaware of the benefits of solitude. Without realizing it, people often follow object relations theory, a psychological idea that highlights the importance of relationships in shaping personality more than individual drives and abilities. In this theory, people believe that the maturation of one's personality is done by attaching oneself to others and interpersonal relationships. People believe that interpersonal relationships are the only meaning of life. They live for others and for the lives of others instead of living for themselves. When you go from a good place to a bad place, you first go from a bad place to a worst place. For many of us, that means if we need and want to know ourselves honestly, we have to leave a romantic relationship or cut off close friends that are a terrible influence on us. Leaving an unhealthy relationship could mean distancing ourselves from someone we care about, and transitioning to being alone without anyone to rely on. Don't be afraid to show your feelings or that you were born different. People always mock and fear what they don't understand. Being unable to show emotions or weakness shows you care too much about what people think about you. You shouldn't care about what they think about you. You should only care about your opinion of yourself. Don't you love yourself? If so, why do we place the opinion of others as a higher value than our opinion of ourselves? The solution to our feelings of worth and independence is cultivating a skill or hobby that consumes one's attention in solitude. By interacting with a craft or hobby, we get to know ourselves because we see our reflection in our creations. We are thereby able to bring our unconscious to our conscious. External creativity work is us making order out of the chaos in our minds. Growth and integration can happen more within someone who spends time alone than we initially thought. Introverts have the ability to be alone and create more easily than extroverts. Thus, they can discover who they are and realize their potential by focusing on their work instead of relying on interactions with others. Solitude is as essential for the mind as it is for food. It helps cultivate our unique identity, thereby helping us gain our independence in relationships as a default. In this way, we do not lose ourselves in the other. It is better to seek solitude voluntarily than to be forced into solitude out of abandonment. If the latter is the case, our desperation will make us cling automatically to the next person we see fit to attach to. We can extract the benefits of solitude by confronting the symbolic darkness alone voluntarily. Don't be confused if you feel like needing your alone time. Trusting in the difficult is crucial, and it's okay to be on your own, even if it's tough. The challenge itself is a good reason to embrace solitude. In my estimation, it is easier for introverts to find themselves than for extroverts. Extroverts need people, they need social interaction. If they don't have others, then they wither away. The introvert bases his pride on deeper inner truths, on his individuality, and on his personal unique endeavors. He separates himself from the average person and is concerned about his existence, role in the universe, what it means to be a person, and adopting roles. In solitude, he cultivates his uniqueness and individuality, thereby finding himself. Everything must be questioned when trying to solve the problems of life. What is your genuine talent, your hidden skill, your true calling? How are you uniquely different, and how can you express this individuality, giving it shape and dedicating it to something greater? How can you take your inner self, the profound mystery at your core, your emotions, your desires, and utilize them to live more authentically? To enhance both your own life and humanity with the unique essence of your talent? It took me years to understand that I am difficult to understand. Once I loved someone, I was all in, and took a leap of faith in trusting they were all in too. Unfortunately, you must surrender to determine where a relationship will take you. You can be rational and logical to filter out personalities and partners, which will yield a failed relationship. However, once you find a partner, you still have to take a leap of faith that they reciprocate your behavior. For years, I was skeptical and cynical about relationships because my partner would confirm my negative biases. Loyalty blinded and betrayed me in the past because I loved too deeply, thus destroying me. It took years before I could place trust in others. I was avoidant to build relationships because my brain associated them with hurt and betrayal. Better off alone than in bad company. I could not seem to trust others, so I guarded my heart around walls of stone. If I opened up to someone about my personal life, it was not only because they had first disclosed their personal information, but because only those who understood my pain could read right through the facade I wore. It takes one to know one. Opening up was a gamble that more than likely would leave me empty-handed. I admit it was worthwhile because if the return was positive, then it was sevenfold more than what I wanted because someone took the energy and time to think and understand. In my isolated travels and inside my artwork, I understood my darkness, which deeply mattered to me since it helped me find my own light. The flames of my torch guided me and helped me stumble less. In moments of profound solitude and absolute isolation, the echoes of my thoughts resonated as if within the serene emptiness of a grand cathedral. A silence so loud wrapped me with warmth and peace. There was no one to waste my time when accepting the truth when alone and lonely. It felt so brief. No one to judge me, heal me, hug me, hear me, or love me but myself. Torn apart between a reality and a world I can't have, knowing myself too well started to feel like a curse since it made life predictable, thereby a life already lived. It is both a blessing and a curse to see the world for what is really worth, to see both good and bad from above and below, to be conscious to see the patterns of absurdity. Anger, resentment, and powerless. Jordan Peterson teaches us that if you can't be cruel, you're vulnerable to anyone who can. Embracing the potential for cruelty, yet choosing not to act on it, signifies strength and self-respect. It's better to have the capability and restraint than to be unable to be cruel, as the former makes you strong and in control, while the latter leaves you vulnerable and naive. What makes a person moral? Having the capacity to be evil, inflict pain and immoral acts, but choosing not to behave like a monster. Someone incapable of evil and calling himself moral is not moral. It is cowardice and weakness. Just because you think of evil things does not make you evil. It is the actions that make you who you are. Emotions have the power to possess us and control our behaviors. At the extremes, emotions prevent us from distinguishing right or wrong and logic. Among all the emotions, anger remains the most powerful. Feelings of vengeance, resentment, and rage have the power to lead us into a path of self-destruction through self-harm, inflicting pain onto others, and, at the extreme level, mass genocide. In the 20th century, political movements fed the anger of the masses, which led to the genocide in Europe, China, and the Soviet Union. It is essential to recognize our anger, not to ignore the worst side of our character. However, not all types of anger are harmful or unethical. It can result from justified mistreatment. It is natural to want and need to defend yourself from the mistreatment, manipulation, and betrayal of others, especially when your life is at risk. Furthermore, anger can be used productively instead of passively to obtain our goals to self-assert. The presence of anger is proof that something within you wants to assert itself. It means you have the desire to speak your truth and affirm yourself. But the opposite of anger, apathy, means that we have lost the meaning and will to live. Anger can act as fuel to help you climb the social ladder. Success is, after all, one of the best types of revenge. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Lord Acton. But the opposite is also true. Absolute impotence corrupts absolutely. Feelings and thoughts of powerlessness emerge, followed by anger rooted in feelings of worthlessness stemming from being stuck in an unfulfilling job for mere financial gain that fails to fill the void. This sense of powerlessness is compounded by the realization that we lack control over our lives, overshadowed by the overwhelming influence of governments. As we perceive ourselves as insignificant in the grand scheme, lost amidst the conformity of the crowd, connection eludes us. Right now, many people are struggling with a big problem. They feel like they're losing their sense of importance. This makes them feel powerless and helpless inside. Some people believe they cannot even affirm themselves. They feel incompetent and devoid of expression. With nothing left to convey, they may see no choice but to explode with frustration. Who can blame them for becoming angry at the world and life in general? We did not choose our families, the culture in which we were raised, the country of our birth, or our environment. The point is that we were dealt a set of cards from birth, and for many, those cards are the cards of pain, sadness, tragedy, poverty, and nothing but struggle. We must rage against the dying of hope. Even though anger can be a healthy response to our impotence, we have been culturally conditioned to suppress and deny it. We deceive and hide our anger in an altruistic persona, and as a result, we become weak, submissive, and psychologically unstable. We set ourselves up for failure and become a ticking bomb when we are overly submissive. Instead, we should accept our feelings of powerlessness, acknowledge our anger, resentment, and hatred, and use them to create something beautiful and constructive. You need to learn to be competent and confident. Do not let others walk over you. If you're in the wrong, then accept responsibility. Do not be arrogant. You should rage against the dying of your individuality. Don't be afraid to converse with yourself and gaze at the face of true evil. In my isolation and loneliness, I saw too much of myself, too much that needed to be addressed, or chaos would have ensued and made matters worse. When we don't address the problem, they build up to something that gets out of control. Carl Jung, The Encounter with the Shadow. The concept of the shadow was initially formulated by the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. He introduced the term shadow self to delineate aspects that individuals tend to repress or find uncomfortable to acknowledge. Jung's theory posits the shadow self as a counterpart to the persona, representing the self that individuals project to the external world. Passions like sex, lust, rage, love, and desire for power are feelings that come from the shadow. Passions have the power to possess us and change our personality in harmful ways. They are instinctive drives that push toward their fulfillment at all costs, even if it means committing immoral acts. Our culture does not teach us the constructive side of anger. Instead, like Christianity, we are conditioned to suppress it. The church fights passions with excision and denial, instead of using it as a tool to make something good out of it. The issue is that one of the most useful sources of creativity is anger. You suppress your anger, then suppress your ability to be creative and productive. Anger is fuel to help you achieve your ambitions. It is better to be angry than depressed because at least anger gives you strength and keeps you alive. Everyone has a need to be creative, not just artists, musicians, authors, or specific types of personalities. Creativity manifests itself when confronted with inner or external conflicts in life. The need to be creative means that something within you needs to be brought to your consciousness, something that needs to be expressed. You must have the devil in you to succeed in any of the arts. Voltaire, when you are creative, you're not passive but productive with your inner chaos. You're no longer numb because you're attempting to make order out of the chaos in your life, like pieces of a puzzle that you place together to make a big, beautiful picture. Your creativity needs to be subjective. It will help you change, evolve, and organize your life, and thereby force your personality to evolve through the transcendence of your problems. You must be one with your shadow. Accept every dark aspect of your personality. Chase and control your demons, instead of your demons chasing and controlling you. Satan serves as a symbolic embodiment of creativity, activity, and energy, engaged in a perpetual struggle for liberation. Within this conceptualization, Satan represents the dynamic force that strives for autonomy, expressing a continuous endeavor to break free from constraints and embrace unrestrained vitality and creativity. This interpretation taps into the nuanced layers of symbolism surrounding Satan, portraying not merely a malevolent figure, but one laden with the complexity of transformative and liberating energies. Your goal is not just to accept your anger and do something constructive with it, but to not let your anger turn into a demonic power that rules over you. You must rule yourself before you can rule others. Your passions have the power to destroy you because they will control you if you dance too long with the devil. Creating and fulfilling your potential involves both building new things and breaking away from old ones. It means changing the way things are, letting go of old habits, and creating fresh, original ways of living. But keep in mind, every creative experience has the potential for aggression or denial. whether it's directed at others or established patterns within yourself. Every experience of creativity has its potentiality of aggression or denial toward other persons in one's environment or towards established patterns within one's self. Psychologist Carl Jung's idea of the shadow is essential for the individual to understand and implement for the evolution of the personality. The shadow is like the devil within you, an entity locked away in our unconscious, the devil within that we all possess and has the power to possess us. It is an entity that many fear and deny in themselves. It is eternal because it cannot be killed, but if tamed, we may harvest the gold it hoards in the pits of hell inside our unconscious. The gold is the evolution of your personality, character, body, and destiny. The shadow contents contain everything frowned upon by society, especially by culture and religion. Organized religion is what Nietzsche regarded as basically morality police. Most of us are oblivious to the shadow even though it makes its presence known when we become angry and lose control. It's possible for a person to acknowledge the inherent flaws in their nature, but it's a rare and profound encounter for them to confront the essence of absolute evil within them. It is frightening to know we all possess the shadow within ourselves. But what is truly fearful is that we are just a cell of a larger body. We are an individual, but we are all part of a society and a nation. When the masses become resentful and vengeful over political issues, injustice, and war, it is then that we see the true face of humanity. We are the cells that make up a more extensive body, but when the masses come together to rage against the other, then we become literally the devil and we act it out. You and I are human, and humans are the only species that had evil intent to commit atrocities such as the Holocaust. You must recognize that you are part of a larger whole and understand that adversities reveal your true character, your primitive ways, and humanity. If you're exposed to the incorrect circumstances at the wrong time, the devil will manifest itself in you. You might say, well, I would have never been a Nazi soldier if I was placed in that position. Well, think again. If you're already a sheep that conforms to social media, schools, and government in an orderly world, then what makes you believe that you would not conform to a disordered world in which you have to decide kill and obey, or you will be killed for going against the authority of a dictatorship? The fact is that you would have been a Nazi soldier if you had been thrown in that specific time and place. And what's scarier and more disturbing is that you would have enjoyed it. Every individual has evil possessive passions, impulses, and necessities that are locked and hidden away from oneself and others. We hide these feelings from ourselves to deceive ourselves that we are good, moral, and holy human beings. We hide the shadow from others to climb the social ladder and to be successful members of society. The more we deny our evil nature, the worse it becomes. If the shadow is denied for too long, unconsciously, it will control our thoughts, emotions, actions, and choices. What we ignore comes back as fate in our lives. An example of this is a self-destructive behavior that one is fully conscious of. We know it will harm us, but we do it anyway. Instead, Jung strongly advises us to accept the shadow with open arms by fully understanding its existence, and by integrating it into our conscious personality. We need to see the shadow as a necessity for our being. We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of life, but by making the darkness conscious. Growing up as a religious Catholic, I saw how Jung's beliefs would collide with my religious beliefs. I witnessed how religious people deny life and hate life for not enjoying it, adding restrictions to life, making it less enjoyable. However, this is not advocating overindulgence or evil transgressions for the sake of feeling free. Religion pretends to cleanse with truths that are lies. One must admit their temptations, own up to madness that is repressed. As a Christian, I was taught that the devil is fought through prayer and with the reliance of God, that he is too powerful for us to fight alone. But that didn't work for me. The devil was much too real for me, and I needed real answers, not wishful thinking. I needed to know, not to believe. Jungian's caution against the projection trap, often observed in some devout individuals within traditional religious circles. Instead of confronting their own dark impulses, sanctimonious figures in religious organizations project them onto others, leading to scapegoating. Legal systems and governments act as safeguards against such primitive tribal behaviors. My encounters with overly religious people, especially at church, revealed a pervasive hypocrisy. The spirituality of these individuals often extends only to their persona, creating a false, superficial image to maintain a self-affirming facade. Examples include cruel nuns, pedophile priests, violent Islamic religious groups, and historical instances like the Spanish Inquisition. Ignorant of their own shadows, religious individuals perceive evil as an external force, not acknowledging it within themselves. According to Jung, we must become the exorcists of our own demons. Failing to confront and transform our deepest impulses may result in both psychological and physical harm. If the shadow is left unaddressed, it can potentially wreak havoc on our well-being. Per Jung, all inspiring creativity is conceived when one comes into union with the shadow. When faced with challenges, we often avoid the path through obscurity and darkness, preferring straightforward solutions. However, we forget that clear results emerge only after delving into and emerging from the darkness. To illuminate the obscure, we need to harness all the enlightening capabilities that consciousness provides. Confronting your shadow, your devil, is already difficult, but taming and harnessing its power is even more difficult. Many of us refuse to acknowledge the truth that we are not inherently holy, virtuous, or selfless. Instead, we avoid admitting that we harbor destructive and immoral desires and impulses. This is self-deception, and it leads to a fragmented individual. We need our shadows to make us whole. If we do not admit we possess a shadow, we cannot conquer it. If we cannot conquer the shadow, how can we complete that which is fragmented? What is fragmented is our personality. The shadow not only possesses your evil personality but also resources of powerful and potent creative capabilities. Those who descend to the darkness are the ones to cross the bridge over the abyss, meaning they face symbolic darkness and gain themselves, thus becoming everything they could potentially be. The reward is your highest potential when you face the shadow. Carl Jung teaches us that the shadow, when acknowledged, becomes a source of renewal. New and productive impulses don't emerge from established ego values. In times of stagnation, despite a well-developed ego, we must explore the dark, previously unacceptable side. This highlights the crucial role of the shadow as the gateway to our individuality. By confronting the shadow, we take the first step towards understanding our unconscious and meeting our true self. Accessing our reality requires acknowledging the part of ourselves we haven't seen before or have chosen to ignore, allowing us to question and understand its sources and foundations. Self-transformation. Life isn't about finding yourself. Instead, it is about creating yourself. The healthiest individuals who have flourished in their respective fields of expertise are among the stronger people mentally. These individuals reach their highest potential or self-actualization. Abraham Maslow described self-actualization as the continuous development of your abilities, talents, and potential. It involves fulfilling your purpose, understanding and accepting your true self, and moving towards inner harmony and unity. At age 21, life confronted me with a riddle. In 2 years, what would you rather have? Financial stability and an excellent career for the rest of your life? Or to be a great artist without recognition? You don't get both at the same time. You do not know which one will make you happier. You must take a leap of faith, and you will not know the answer of which was the right choice till the 2 years are over. I answered the riddle by posing a question grounded in my depression. Well, which of these paths will keep me alive? My intuition guided me towards the latter because the meaning of creation and art keeps me alive, not money. The ideas for the Deceiver of the Blind music album Heaven's Vengeance Boils in My Heart were initially written at 19. I delayed my gratification and placed all my chips in something that I knew would not yield profits for certain. The ideas weren't published till the age of 22 because I knew the idea was great. However, I did not have the music engineering skills to make it great. I wanted to be a great artist. Great artists are the only ones that can write both great tragedies and comedies. It's the idea that you can move from one hierarchy to another, making you the shining star on top of the hierarchies. I needed to learn many different skills, such as composing, producing, drums, piano, and vocals, since I was only a guitar player and a lyricist. If you settle for less than your full potential, in all probability you will be miserable your whole life. It is essential for us to have goals, not for the end reward, but for the personality and character transformation that we are forced to undergo to achieve success. Pursuing a challenging good end or goal forces us to leave our nest of comfort. We are forced to develop self-discipline, new skills, and realize that we are not as hopeless as we thought. Direct your life towards accomplishing what reality demands. Focus on purposeful actions and let your emotions naturally follow. As you become adept at addressing your responsibilities, you'll likely find that your emotions become less troublesome. Even if feelings become challenging, engaging in positive activities helps keep them in perspective. Emotions won't dominate your experience when you're actively involved in meaningful actions. Purposeful action helps us align our destiny with our true selves and helps us take care of what needs to be done. A powerful tool that aids us in prioritizing our goals is realizing that our time is brief and that we will die. Any day could be our last day to enjoy the things and people we love. Contemplating death is a two-edged sword since it can bring existential anxiety. However, if used correctly, it will be the beginning of a transformation. Reflecting on my mortality is a crucial tool for making significant life decisions. In the face of death, external pressures, pride, and fears of embarrassment or failure lose their significance, revealing what truly matters. The awareness that I'm any day away from death helps me avoid the trap of fearing loss, as I am already naked and have nothing to lose. It encourages me to wholeheartedly pursue my passions. Not acting upon ambition and heeding the call of our higher self will lead to the destruction of our full potential. We may think we have time to accomplish our goals, but working at our jobs and going through the motions of life sucks our soul and life away. We need to remember that the older we get, the harder it will become for us to reach our full potential. Time is never by our side when we fail to take responsibility for the steps to reach our goals. If your natural development is blocked or stuck at the wrong stage, it can lead to problems later in life, crises, breakdowns, and various sufferings. You might feel guilty and anxious, even if you haven't done anything wrong. The real guilt lies in knowing you have an issue but doing nothing to fix it. Personality and identity. If you understand yourself, you can understand others. Getting to know yourself in utter isolation and solitude is a positive experience because you do not understand why it's meaningful. It sparks your curiosity. Solace nourishes the soul. I live for music and it keeps me alive because it's where I derive my meaning. You can debate whether I was programmed to make it my meaning. I identify with the label artist because it took me years to earn the label. It's part of my identity. An artist is someone who skillfully creates art using conscious skill and creative imagination. Art is something crafted with imagination and skill, showcasing beauty or expressing significant ideas and feelings. It is the main characteristic that I identify with because not everyone is a musician, not every musician is an artist, and not every artist is great or exceptional at their craft. Furthermore, not everyone is a painter and musical artist simultaneously. I chose to be great and exceptional. I am what I chose to become, not what happened to me. Where does the information in dreams come from? For myself, it is embedded in fictional stories between good and evil, from my favorite superhero characters to anime. Characters symbolize virtues one should possess for a great life, and what to avoid to prevent a tragedy. Fictional narratives are true in a pragmatic way. It teaches us what behavior works in reality, making abstractions powerful. It's more true than nonfiction because it takes the story that needs to be told about you and me or the human experience. Great dramas appealed to me because I saw myself and my mind as a labyrinth. I could not figure myself out, and I was looking for all the tools that could help me understand myself better to prevent a tragedy. There isn't anything more complicated than a human being. Our narratives and thereby the narrative of humanity are complex. Philosophers weren't generating creative ideas out of their asses. They were telling the story of humanity. It's already in you. It's already in our patterns of behavior. You act inside the unknown. You speak of it. Therefore, you dream of it, affecting your behavior. It loops. You obtain wisdom this way. I used the wisdom of great thinkers to guide me, helping me to become an independent thinker. I needed tools to sculpt me since grade school and college only enforced single-minded views and not to come up with my own subjective meanings. Society and culture are of no use either. If you deviate from the status quo, then you will be whipped back into conformity through ostracization and shame. How can you start getting to know yourself psychologically? With personality tests. The best tools that helped me know my personality were the following. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator www.personalities.com and Dr. Jordan Peterson's Big 5 Personality Traits Test www.understandmyself.com/. Through these tests, I had a basic framework for my personality. I was able to build upon it later on. I learned from the Myers-Briggs personality test that I was an INFJ. I'm introverted, intuitive, a feeler, and judgmental. My Big 5 personality test results. My profile from the Big 5 personality test indicated that I possess a unique combination of traits across the Big 5 dimensions. In terms of agreeableness, I exhibited a low score, 9%. Suggesting a competitive and assertive nature, with honesty and directness likely being prominent aspects of my communication style. My compassion is also low, 13%, indicating less focus on others' problems, while politeness is low, 12%, suggesting a non-deferential attitude towards authority. Moving on to conscientiousness, I stand out with an exceptionally high score, 98%. Showcasing diligence, orderliness, and a strong adherence to rules. My high industriousness level, 95%, reflects a robust work ethic and a dislike for idleness, while exceptional orderliness, 98%, signifies a keen preference for tidiness and structure. In terms of extroversion, my score is high, 88%. Indicating enthusiasm, talkativeness, and assertiveness in social situations. This is the part I disagree a bit with. Even though I can be an extrovert, I am highly introverted as well. I enjoy my time alone the most and with others. However, the extroversion levels are primarily seen in my professional life than in my private life. This test failed to identify me as a highly introverted, creative individual, which is how I made 4 music albums by myself. The result came from introversion, not extroversion. However, in my extroversion, I thrive on social contact and exhibit qualities associated with leadership. While my enthusiasm is average, 41%, my assertiveness is exceptionally high, 98%, showcasing a take-charge attitude and a strong communication style. When it comes to neuroticism, I score very low, 6%, suggesting a high tolerance for negative emotions and resilience in the face of stress. My withdrawal is moderately low, 23%, signifying an ability to handle uncertainty and unexpected situations, and volatility is exceptionally low, 2%, indicating remarkable mood stability. In openness to experience, I exhibit exceptionally high scores, 97%, reflecting a profound interest in novelty, creativity, and abstract thinking. My intellect, 89%, is notably high, showcasing a strong interest in abstract ideas and a constant craving for novel and challenging problems. Openness, 97%, is exceptionally high, highlighting creativity, sensitivity to beauty, and a love for new experiences. In summary, my personality profile suggests a unique blend of assertiveness, diligence, creativity, and resilience, indicating strengths across various aspects of work, social interactions, and intellectual pursuits. My Myers-Briggs Personality Test results. The following is a general description of advocates, or IFJS. Advocates are a unique personality type, making 1 to 2% of the population. They are known for making a positive impact in the world. They are driven by ideals, aiming to create a difference rather than settling for a passive life. Success to them isn't about wealth or status, but finding fulfillment, helping others, and contributing to the greater good. Advocates value integrity and persist in doing what they believe is right. Despite feeling different due to their rare personality, they are not just dreamers but take action guided by their values, wisdom, and intuition. Advocates are troubled by injustice, prioritize altruism, and use their creativity, imagination, and sensitivity to spread compassion. Despite being introverted, they value authentic connections, enjoy meaningful conversations, and communicate with warmth. Advocates believe in a unique life purpose, finding satisfaction in pursuing it to address injustices. They understand the balance between caring for others and self-care, persisting in their drive to make the world better with a harmonious blend of heart and mind. Famous INFJ figures include Carl Jung, J.K. Rowling, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Martin Luther King Jr., and Leo Tolstoy. The description of my personality was too accurate. I remembered being relieved when I stumbled into this test because I suddenly no longer felt misunderstood. The fact that my personality was the rarest in the population didn't help with my feelings of loneliness. Going into the rabbit hole of learning about your personality is addictive. When you answer the questions genuinely, you will have true insights into who you are. You will find wisdom about your strengths and weaknesses, how your personality plays a part in a romantic relationship, friendships and parenthood, the best career paths that fit you, and even your workplace habits. However, you cannot get information just from one source, or you'll find biased information. What you need the most will be wherever you want to look the least. I used to be very sensitive to criticism as a youngster, but since I wanted to be better, I knew I had to seek it. It hurts to learn about your weaknesses, especially when you have the same personality as the worst people in history. A few of my weaknesses that I had to overcome were that I used to expect everyone around me to be as devoted and perfect as I aimed to be. If they weren't, I looked down on them for lacking the ambition to reach their potential. I struggled with self-pity and was stubborn in defending my ideas, often dismissing advice, especially from those I considered disgraceful. Criticism didn't sit well with me. I'd try to rationalize and refute it. Despite achieving a lot at a young age, I never felt satisfied. I constantly saw myself as falling short. Each accomplishment led to introspection and isolation, always concluding that my work wasn't enough, and I could have done better. It was easy to admit that these weaknesses were accurate and perfectly described me, but what took a long time was to implement change. For example, if you're too conscientious, then you're not flexible with yourself, or you can be too tidy with everything. Someone who is too agreeable could be a pushover, which means they don't get a competent wage or move up a hierarchy. Self-awareness allows you to change. You have to be careful with personality website marketing because we are more likely to purchase information that will make us feel good rather than bad. The negative side of taking these personality tests is that it places labels on you and thereby puts people in a box, thus limiting potentiality and personal growth. However, you can accept your strengths and weaknesses to change them rather than being ignorant of them. At its worst, it can destroy freedom and self-determination. In my solitude, I got to understand myself. I use nature to escape people and recharge my batteries because trees don't bitch and whine, complain about daddy issues, suffer from gender identity problems, or show ingratitude. Having the framework knowledge of your personality gave me the following insights. I gave the door slam to many people to prevent getting hurt or betrayed. I could be arrogant and aloof when my missions and visions of self-improvement were clear. I do not sugarcoat the truth because I prefer a bitter truth over a sweet lie. However, if I know someone can't handle the truth, I will not speak it to protect the person's feelings. The brightest light casts the brightest shadow. I was gentle towards the weak out of consciousness of my own strength. I stayed away from people who asked for advice and completely ignored it. Some people need to learn the hard way and make mistakes themselves. I knew I would never compromise my values and principles to conform. My confidence and competence are not to be confused with arrogance and egocentrism. I have surrendered to the universe and let go. There's nothing more humble than accepting you're a speck of dust in the universe and making it an offering with your creation. In my case, I did it through art. I realized I hated myself in a productive manner. Self-hate leads to self-improvement because you know you are insufficient and can better yourself. It is both a blessing and curse to be an INFJ. For years, I have had serious avoidant behavioral problems, depression, and anxiety. I realized from a young age that I was my own worst enemy. I could not cast blame on my externals or even people who wronged me. Weaknesses that I had to overcome include that I cared more for others than myself, so I became an easy target for emotional exploitation and one-sided love relationships. Over time, I was killing myself with altruism, and I saw it as okay, as I deserved the suffering. My life was hell, and I accepted it. However, that was the half-truth. A good philosopher must be able to argue both sides of a point, good and bad, and cannot be biased. You should be able to argue rationally why life is meaningless, but also why you should strive for the most meaningful life. My intuition helped me identify the plans and intentions of others, good or bad. This helped me avoid many leeches and hypocrites who just wanted me for utility or pleasure. Do not let anyone waste your time. It is your most valuable resource. Prepare to get intellectually, emotionally, or psychologically destroyed when messing with a truly educated individual. Do not mess around with a person who knows how to think, write, and speak. I learned to understand how to manipulate situations to their advantage, including the deepest of human emotions. I always attempted to connect the patterns when there were no patterns. This was part of my overthinking patterns. A flaw in my communication was that I was not clear in my speech. I would jump from topic to topic and then back again to support an idea or theory. I would jump to so many tangents too. I searched with laser focus for the correct answer to a specific problem, specifically ones that would help me solve the riddle to life and help me master the art of living. My main question was, how would you justify your existence without being an altruistic, sacrificial animal? I was led to self-overcoming through suffering and the creation of art. The dark side of the NFJ. No great mind has ever existed without a touch of madness. Aristotle. Every personality has a dark side. No one is off the hook. What is the worst an INFJ can become? Literally, Hitler. To put it in a more general way, NFJs can be prone to becoming idealistic and becoming a revolution of one for better or worse. In the last season of the famous TV series Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen becomes possessed by her emotional logic and ideology to fulfill her vision of her utopia. She refuses to show mercy because she falls in love with her idea of a rebirthed society. It's difficult to see something that has never been. By an iron hand, genocide becomes her mercy. What she hates is what she becomes. Through chaos, she forges her hell on earth to make her world of gold. Daenerys determines what is good because she is guided by her introverted intuition. The INFJ believes that as long as they are the ones in power of change, then everything will be in order. That problem is that this has proved to be catastrophic. INFJs have a natural talent for understanding which choices lead to desired results. They're good at knowing what is best. INFJs accomplish this by connecting the dots and figuring out patterns that will lead to the desired outcomes most safely and quickly as possible. Based on hypothetical questions and journeys by generating multiple avatars of themselves in simulations. This is how the INFJ acquires the reputation of natural leaders because they know exactly what to do. If no one questions the authority of the INFJ, then it will lead to transforming the INFJ into a person who is obsessed with their own power. If the INFJ is challenged, then they experience cognitive dissonance, and they will need to change their thought process. People are not loyal to the world built, but to the INFJ in authority. The INFJ knows who to target out of empathy. Both Hitler and Daenerys knew firsthand what it was like to be in a place of humiliation, rejection, despair, and weakness. In the early months of 1908, following his mother's death, 18-year-old Adolf Hitler left his provincial hometown of Linz and relocated to Vienna, envisioning it as the perfect place to pursue his dream of becoming an artist. Despite being rejected by the city's Academy of Fine Arts in 1907 due to unsatisfactory drawing skills, Hitler persisted. In his autobiography Mein Kampf, Hitler stated that the rejection came as a sudden and unexpected blow, as he was thoroughly convinced of his impending success. He faced rejection again in 1908, but started earning a living in 1909 by selling small oil and watercolor paintings of Vienna's landmarks to tourists. Living in cheap rented rooms and even a homeless shelter initially, Hitler's financial situation improved. In Vienna, his frustration with art led him to explore politics, with some historians challenging the claim that his anti-Semitic views emerged during this period. Hitler's worldview, shaped by Vienna's mayor Karl Lueger, who was known for anti-Semitic rhetoric, evolved during this time. Despite being deemed unfit for combat duty due to health reasons, Hitler voluntarily enlisted in the military in August 1914, marking the end of his struggling artist phase with the outbreak of World War I. Both Hitler and Daenerys gained loyal followers through their speeches, because using the right emotionally appealing words helps with identification. Emotional appeal, when properly used, influences and persuades people to follow you to death, literally. INFJ authoritative figures can grow paranoid out of overanalyzation. They categorize people they can and can't trust. They begin to need evidence of loyalty and devotion from followers. INFJs understand the power of reputation. They know that if they make God bleed, then its people will stop believing in him. I don't want to go down as Hitler, but as Christ or Marcus Aurelius, both whom were INFJs. I have to admit that learning everything that could go wrong with my personality type felt extremely uncomfortable since, on the good side, I could be like Martin Luther King. Still, on the wrong side, I could have been like Adolf Hitler since INFJs dance too close to madness. It is uncomfortable to find out that you are prone to be like one of the worst human beings that have walked on Earth. Negative personality changes do not happen overnight. They build up through years of suffering, rejection, disappointment, receiving ingratitude from others, and seeing that your sacrifices do not yield the results you were hoping for. The weakness of the Myers-Briggs test is that it just focuses on your positive traits but not on why you're a pain in the ass. You must look for all the negative information about your personality to address your blind spots. A blind spot brought to my attention by my brother was that the totalitarian in me tried to pressure others to cultivate my habits. I had the illusion that I knew exactly what was right and wrong for others. Not to sound more narcissistic, but I was right with the people I advised. I wasn't telling others to make their lives perfect, but to reduce unnecessary suffering by integrating actions and emotions with logic. It would help with my knowledge and experience, but if I were ignorant of a particular issue, then I would own up to ignorance. I admitted I didn't have all the answers. My suffering from anxiety and depression came from existential problems and cognitive dissonance with my identity. It wasn't that my brain chemistry was faulty, but because I was overwhelmed by the suffering and complexity of life, and I wasn't sure why it was reasonable to continue with it. I felt the terrible, negative meanings of life swallowing me whole. I was skeptical beyond belief about any of the positive meanings of it. However, dissecting life in a pessimistic sense made me a good philosopher. The song To Drink Dragon's Blood by Deceiver of the Blind is about going to the unknown, confronting the dragon, and distributing the gold you took from it. It is about being in communion with what is evil, facing it, and becoming one. This means confront whatever psychological and physical problems that are troubling in your life and embracing suffering because it makes you stronger and wiser. If you choose to ignore it, then it will consume you. The more you ignore it, the more the cancer grows until it will kill you. Open your eyes and stop being arrogant, pretending you know everything. Be humble, or you will be humbled. Don't act like your shit doesn't stink. Humility is a virtue that not many possess. Learn from the mistakes of others. You cannot make all the mistakes in the world, so let others make them for you. You don't need to do heroin to know it will destroy your life. It's common sense. It's very easy to see yourself as nothing in that span of time. Everyone's life is a tragedy in one way or another. The rich father who took his son to a poor village. There was once a boy who grew up in a very wealthy family. One day, his father decided to take him on a trip to show him how others lived who were less fortunate. His father's goal was to help his son appreciate everything that he has been given in life. The boy and his father pulled up to a farm where a very poor family lived. They spent several days on the farm, helping the family work for their food and take care of their land. When they left the farm, his dad asked his son if he enjoyed their trip and if he had learned anything during the time they spent with this other family. The boy quickly replied, "It was fantastic." "That family is so lucky." Confused, his father asked what he meant by that. The boy said, "Well, we only have one dog, but that family has 4 and they have chickens. We have 4 people in our home, but they have 12. They have so many people to play with. We have a pool in our yard, but they have a river running through their property that is endless. We have lanterns outside so we can see at night, but they have the wide open sky and the beautiful stars to give them wonder and light. We have a patio, but they have the entire horizon to enjoy. They have endless fields to run around in and play. We have to go to the grocery store, but they are able to grow their own food. Our high fence protects our property and our family, but they don't need such a limiting structure, because their friends protect them." The father was speechless. Finally, the boy added, "Thank you for showing me how rich people live. They're so lucky." So what's the moral of this story? True wealth and happiness aren't measured by material belongings. Being around the people you love, enjoying the beautiful natural environment, and having freedom are much more valuable. A rich life can mean different things to different people. What are your values and priorities? If you have whatever is important to you, you can consider yourself to be wealthy. In life, it's easy to forget about what we have. Instead, we're often trapped by focusing on what we don't have. What's worthless to one person might be invaluable to another. It all depends on how you view the world and what's truly valuable to you. Author unknown. Gold is of no use for a man who is already dead. Money cannot buy talent, discipline, self-control, personality, or virtue. Let's assume you are fully aware of where you currently stand. You think you know what is best for you, but what makes you believe that? What led you to those conclusions? Is it what your family, society, and teachers taught you? What makes them believe they know you if they don't know themselves? You also think you know what you need and want, but what you believe will benefit you will, in most probability, poison you. For example, people believe money solves everything, but it does not. You could be a millionaire and still get a malignant tumor. You could still have a child born with leukemia. Let's assume tragedy doesn't strike in that way. Well, now you have the tragedy of too much money, which leads to comfort. No struggle leads to weakness of body and soul. Life goes by, and problem after problem adds up like compound interest. Next thing you know, you wasted years doing things you hate to pay off fleeting pleasures. Only a few people can be trusted with money. Why? Because it's the same case with truth and power. They have learned how to handle it. A person's worth is determined by how much pain, truth, and responsibility they are able to carry upon their shoulders. Part of growing up with or without the guidance of your parents and teachers involves knowing yourself. However, it is extremely difficult because you don't see what you're looking for, and if you do, you don't know where to find it. Ignorance is part of growing up, so you need to keep learning. But knowing what you need to learn and refusing to learn is to be willingly blind. People go through their midlife crises because they never found out where they wanted to go or why. Why is the big problem. To repeat myself, you say you know what you want, but what makes you believe that's true? More than likely, you think that because that's what society expects of you, you conform to the values that are shoved down your throat, for example, money, status, a high-paying job, an expensive home, etc. What makes you believe that what you think you want will actually be good for you? Let's take money as an example again. If you don't know how to handle it, earn it, or spend it, then it will destroy your life, literally. What about eternal comfort? Do you wish that upon yourself as well? Why would you want to improve yourself if there's no struggle? Excellence withers without an adversary. The adversary being the struggles of life you have to go through when you are forced to deal with poverty. And even then, let's assume you do know what you want. You don't get it because you don't try. You instead expect it to come to you. So you don't take care of the responsibilities that need to be taken care of to get there. Thereby you miscarry your future self, which is equivalent to shooting yourself in the foot. And assuming that you wish to get married because humans are social animals, we depend on others and need people to survive, or else we go insane. What makes you believe you can care for someone else, like your partner or children, if you don't even know how to care for yourself? Humans are not built for a life of endless comfort and pleasures or a utopia. It doesn't matter how much wealth, possessions, or pleasures you have. You always run into the problem of, okay, now what? Overindulgence, suffering, sickness, and death are always at your doorstep. People confuse happiness for pleasure, but never mind meaning. They think wealth and riches fix everything, but the rich still have the same problems as everyone else. Everyone gets sick and dies, for example. In Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, he argues that a utopia would be anti-human. We are built for a balance between order and chaos. Too much of any of these two will lead to neurosis or even death. How could too much order lead to death? Well, you have too much money, you lack struggle because everything comes too easy, your life becomes empty, you try to fill the emptiness with mindless desires after overindulging in pleasure for years. And then your body adapts and builds tolerance. What happens when you cannot derive pleasure from pleasure any longer? You start pursuing more intense feelings like pain, leading to a road of self-destruction, alcohol, drugs, and reckless behavior. Most people cannot handle money. Money is power, and it gives you endless possibilities to experience life. But what if you're uneducated, irresponsible, and not very wise with power? Chaos will ensue. This is the individual destroying the utopia. In his novel Notes from Underground, Russian novelist Dostoevsky explains how when everything is going well and life is comfortable and easy, sometimes people act up for no good reason. Even when all their needs are met, they might stir up trouble just to hold on to their silly ideas and keep things interesting. They want to feel like they're still unique and not just predictable like a piano key played by nature's rules. Even if science proved they're like piano keys, they might rebel just to show they're in charge. In tough times, they might cause chaos and suffering, just to have things their way. Cursing, something only humans do, becomes a way for them to say, "I'm still human, not just a piece in a predictable pattern." They might even choose to act crazy instead of following what makes sense, just to prove they're in control. You may not get all your luxuries, but at least you get what you need to survive. You gain your struggle, purpose, personality, health, and virtue. And that's sevenfold far more meaningful than buying new toys to show off to people, and frankly, nobody cares about the things you own. Everyone goes to sleep just okay, not caring about your luxuries. You cannot buy talent, personality, discipline, happiness, virtue, self-control, and meaning with money. A person with no meaning, struggle, or goals has no use for gold, for man does not live on food, water, and shelter alone. He requires meaning to survive. What is the point of buying a house if you don't know how to live in it? How can you live with yourself, let alone with others, if you don't have your individuality because you don't know yourself? Depending on others enslaves you. The revelation of your life purpose leads to meaning, especially when you understand the direct effects of your actions that cause positive emotion. You have a dialogue with your conscience. You expose yourself and mature together. I did this through the song Labyrinth of Chaos and Order, a letter to my mother. I used my mother as the recipient because who else could you communicate your deepest external troubles and inflicted pain? The lyrics took 30 minutes to write on a restless night, not counting the minor detail changes. I had a dialogue with myself, and I needed to speak non-metaphorically in my songs for once. It was time to be transparent. Find whatever appeals to you that is not easy and sparks your interest. If it takes years to achieve and yields positive emotion because you see meaning in it, do it. The time will pass anyway. Learn to listen to your instinct. Life will unfold before you when you follow that which sparks your curiosity. Don't care too much about the money. If you make money out of it, that is a bonus. But make sure you have a career or a job first that you see as meaningful. Something you can tolerate, which helps you buy water, food, and shelter. If you deny yourself and your true dreams, how can you be sure you don't desire what you've never had? As the philosopher Kierkegaard put it when believing in God, it's a leap of faith. You wager everything on what you believe will bring the most meaning to your life, hoping like hell you made the right choice. Unfortunately, the answer won't be found in logic. It requires faith in your dreams and a belief in something greater. Personally, my dream was to create original music, publish it, and bring it into existence. I wanted to compose the kind of music I wanted to hear. I aspired to be both a painter and a musical artist. As a boy from a low-income community who had to sell 25-cent candy to buy his first guitar, achieving this seemed impossible. Especially trying to produce something that sounded professional as if recorded in a studio. "Mom, can I have $250 to buy a guitar?" "You surely cannot." "Well, why not?" "Because I need that money for rent and to feed you." "That makes sense. Then can I have money to buy candy so I can sell it at school to buy my guitar?" "That I can do." How was I supposed to record an entire album in a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment? How could I even afford to rent the studio? And besides, it takes more talent. I was only a guitar player, not a singer, a drummer, or a keyboard player. I only had 2 guitars when I was 18 and 4 years into my craft. I committed myself that I was going to chase my dream, even though my parents would tell me, shut the fuck up, or turn the shit down when practicing. I was going to take my dream and make it into a reality. Through years of learning and making mistakes I learned from YouTube producers, I would watch documentaries of my favorite classic rock albums, everything I could get my hands on to learn how to compose. It was the transformation the journey made me go through that I found meaningful, though frustrating, depressing, and miserable at times. It was the learning and struggle that made me who I am today. Looking back at pictures of the humble music studio makes me appreciate all the sacrifices I made as a teenager. It took many years to be content and proud of my work, but the meaning I found and the amount of positive emotion felt greater than love for a romantic partner. So don't bother or criticize me or my artwork before you look at yourself. When a person can't express themselves as an artist, they often turn to criticism, just as someone who can't be a soldier may become an informer. This notion suggests that unfulfilled aspirations find alternative outlets, shaping one's role based on the limitations of their original ambitions. Too much order breeds mediocrity. This next section can also be tied up to the section Failure in Chapter 6. Patience is success. For some people, a tragic story unfolds when they are overly sheltered and protected, echoing the views of Jordan Peterson, who likened this to a walled garden. A place of paradise, warmth, love, and sustenance. Ironically, this sanctuary can also give rise to hidden chaos, much like serpents lurking within. In real life, this often happens when well-meaning but excessively protective parents forget to teach that true greatness and wisdom come from facing challenges, pain, and tragedy. They're earned, not just given or bought. Consider a friend's little brother, a 18-year-old who we shall call Jimmy. He saw himself as the family's neglected dog, pampered to the point of being a harmless, naive beta. The boy didn't even know how to operate his stove at home, struggled with a porn addiction, and was too cowardly to get his driver's license, relying on his parents for transportation. To no one's surprise, he faced difficulties with women, attempting to win them over with expensive gifts. Unfortunately, he didn't realize that women value competence, confidence, and strength, not a pampered boy using his parents' money to impress others. Aspiring to study psychology at a prestigious private university, doubts arose about his ability to help others with deep issues, having never faced genuine hardships. The question lingered: can wisdom solely from books truly aid traumatized individuals seeking empathy, understanding, and genuine support rather than mere sympathy? Upon rejection from his dream university, the teenager's response was a tantrum, breaking possessions in frustration. The parents' reaction, buying him an expensive leather jacket and enrolling him in an alternative private school, highlighted the unintended consequences of an overly protected upbringing. The subsequent $65,000 investment per semester in his education served as a financial testament to the fallout. The tragedy unfolded as a story of a young man transforming into a feeble, feminized figure, unable to justify his existence on his terms. Jimmy wasn't a young adult, but a child stuck in an adult body. The supposed sanctuary of the walled garden became a breeding ground for metaphorical snakes. The overprotective parental influences making him weak, indulged, and hesitant to face the challenges of growing into manhood. It's a cautionary story, stressing the harmful effects of too much order or a lack of struggle in shaping one's character. This narrative carries a sense of shame, emphasizing that men subjected to such stifling environments may face rejection by women due to their resulting compromised and underdeveloped personas. In stark contrast to my best friend, his elder sibling, he grew up without a father, assuming the role of the paternal figure at home. The weight of necessity compelled him to mature quickly. Despite facing challenging odds, he emerged as a disciplined, well-educated individual and a dedicated teacher. Remarkably, he purchased a new car outright and self-funded his master's degree by the age of 27, all while juggling a full-time job, being a father figure to his sister and niece. And without the support of others, in contrast, his family pulled him under since they avoided responsibility. Despite having a father with capital, he chose independence, not out of arrogance, but due to his disdain for those who flaunt assistance. He deeply appreciates the value of hard work and intelligence in earning education and wisdom. His ascent was not handed to him. He earned it, presenting a striking contrast to his younger brother. Now, let's take my friend, who we shall call Sarahi, as another counterexample. Despite facing significant challenges, Sarahi has shown exceptional strength and determination. In the midst of her grandfather's passing and a troubled family dynamic, including a problematic teenage brother and an unsupportive, irresponsible mother, she has managed to navigate nursing school while pregnant, striving to make her marriage work. Her father's actions, involving theft and taking advantage of her generosity, could have easily derailed her, but Sarahi has chosen a path of resilience and perseverance. Despite the lack of familial support and the hardships life has thrown at her, she maintains her integrity, refusing to succumb to bitterness. In expressing my admiration, I emphasized her unwavering commitment to finishing nursing school, highlighting her goal of providing the best possible life for her newborn. I commended her for not succumbing to excuses and continuing to persevere through adversity, acknowledging that she has faced life's challenges without letting them alter her positive outlook. Despite her family's attempts to drag her into waves of self-pity and irresponsibility, Sarahi emerges stronger and braver. I conveyed my respect for her ability to rise above the negativity, maintaining her focus on creating a better future. I encouraged her to keep up the remarkable work she's doing, emphasizing the strength and resilience she embodies in the face of adversity. This is a stoic woman who does not make excuses on why she can't attain her goals. It is a privilege and inspiring to have friends like these. Moreover, it's truly remarkable to have a girlfriend with similar struggles who not only overcame her traumas but also transformed them into numerous positive outcomes. To be able to refer to the person I love as my hero is a distinct privilege. Realize that people still persevere in way worse situations and environments than yours. Yes, while life is arbitrary and subjective and everyone has their own struggles and responsibilities, we can all agree that for some life is really manageable but choose to be lazy, drown in self-pity, and refuse to adopt responsibility and grow up. Many don't want to be reborn and transform. Many want to stay in their nest of mediocrity. Many choose to be cowards instead of heroes. As a result, they are punished with neurosis for not achieving their highest potential. We should all learn from those who have it worse than us and look up to them. Understand no one will come and save you if you can't save yourself. A man can have a lot of chaos within him, making him a beast. A woman can civilize him, which medicates that chaos. However, it can be at the price of his individuality. Too much order can breed weakness and cowardice. In my experience, I didn't have a woman from 14 to 23. I had to civilize myself through my art. I interacted with it, and through years of introspection and learning from and about myself, I was able to shape and mold my suicidal chaos into the order that helped me reach my full potential. Who are you? You're a tragedy and yet a work of art. You need to find your unique and subjective way to justify your existence without being a sacrificial animal. What do you want? When you answer it, don't think materialistic. It has to be something about your character. Per Carl Jung, you start with the persona. Then when you start investigating the parts that don't belong in the persona, you discover the shadow, and you begin understanding who you are. Because the persona symbolizes what is considered morally good by your culture and society, and the shadow is everything that is regarded as its opposite, all that makes you evil. Being too deep into your persona can drastically affect your internal and external life. Per Carl Jung, your persona is like a mask, complicated relations between personal thoughts and society. It's designed to make an impression on others and hide the true self. Simply put, it is the mask you wear that is correct to society, culture, and other institutions. You know someone is too deep into their persona when they over-identify with what they do for a living. I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a lawyer, I'm a businessman. Okay, what else are you? Well, I'm also a mother or sister. And what else? You can keep going and going, but you will reach a dead end when you realize the person over-identifies with everything that the institutions find appropriate for a person. Everything is superficial. I'm not going to ask if the person has dreams, or do they have passions. Instead, the correct questions are, did they make their dreams a reality? Are they in touch with their inner child? Do they get to enjoy and participate in their passions, what they genuinely love to do if money were no object? What do they love doing that doesn't come at the cost of others by being a sacrificial animal? Do this experiment on yourself. What would you do if money were no object? If you didn't have to sacrifice yourself for others and were in total solitude, what would justify your existence? What would make you say, my life is worth living in utter isolation and solitude? When people are too deep into their persona and life goes to shit, they risk suffering from the regressive restoration of the persona. Regressive restoration of the persona is when something big goes wrong, like a business person taking a huge risk and going bankrupt. Afterward, you might try to go back to how you were before, but it doesn't work because you've changed and learned. So, you might end up hurting yourself to fit into the old version of you. Who are your heroes? A person is not defined by what they own. Judge people by their character, virtues, and their values. Many people are unhappy because they have fake friends, fake values, and fake lives. They are superficial and wealthy in thinking, health, and character. Pay close attention to who you look up to. We attempt to replicate and imitate those who we admire. The problem is that flawed ideals give glamour to flaws of character. If your ideal is profoundly flawed and self-destructive, then by default, so will you. A star is a place and is the ultimate ideal. An ideal is a star you aim at. Why should you aim at it? That which is the best in life, an ideal. I asked myself if I could conceptualize a better ideal. Yes, for me, it was Dion from My Deceiver of the Blind artwork and lyrics. From a Jungian perspective, it is the self, which is everything you could be across time. It is a revelation to realize your potential and everything you could be. A Christmas star symbolizes a hero who is born because of what an infant is. You can mold them. Dion is really a baby. Dion is the star I wished upon, the ideal I aim at. Strength, wisdom, vision, and intelligence are combined into a being, becoming an ideal. It's divine. When you admire someone, you've already placed them higher in the dominance hierarchy. Admiration signifies recognizing someone as better at whatever it is that's inspiring your admiration. It's like seeing them as the embodiment of your ideal. You're a winner if you get invited to play a game because we are good at finding people who know how to play the set of games. This is the person highest in the hierarchy. They are on top of the hierarchical structure because they can adapt and become good in other fields. We are also great at detecting and remembering cheaters because they aren't invited to play a game. After all, we can't trust them. An example of this would be a backstabbing coworker who is left isolated because they built an immoral reputation. This person doesn't get invited because he is a betrayer. Therefore, he does not get invited to social games. It's the innate morality system. You accept to lose because you learn and get to play again. That's what makes a good winner. They lose and overcome. A bad loser is someone who is used to winning, loses once, and then pulls off a baby tantrum. That's embarrassing and pitiful. Don't rely on counselors. Find a mentor with whom you share a strong emotional connection and can easily absorb knowledge. If you're pursuing education, assess the effectiveness of your mentor by the positive outcomes you achieve through the wisdom and guidance they provide. Good mentors equal good tools. Good tools equal good results in life. The stupidest advice I received from my school counselor at age 18 was, don't pursue a trade. Get a bachelor's degree and then go to pharmacy school for another 4 years. Despite explaining my financial struggles, her response was, student loans have the lowest interest rates in the nation. If 25-year-olds are clueless about their life paths, what made her think persuading an 18-year-old to accumulate $100,000 in debt was great advice? Trades provide practical knowledge and skills for real-world success, while a bachelor's degree often lacks applicability, offering no jobs, no license, and serving merely as proof that I studied something. Not that I possessed practical skills for employment. The right advice for any 18-year-old is to explore various fields that pique their interest, ensuring there's potential for earning a stable income. Start with general education classes at a community college for affordability and use this time to understand yourself through different subjects. Do your research on financial help from the government. In all probability, you will qualify for grants. Determine if you prefer a career working with people or tools. If you discover a passion with poor job security or low pay, consider making it a side hustle while pursuing a stable income in a career where you excel and can tolerate. This advice reflects reality, and surprisingly, no counselor or teacher ever shared it with me. I had to figure it out through trial and error. Ideals are teachers, and bad teachers don't know the meaning of life. Society becomes corrupted by media that view mindless pleasures as a norm and standard. Be warned, if you don't conform, then you'll be punished by ostracization. A good ideal is a hero that keeps you noble and humble. They help us orient ourselves. It's a map towards virtues that lead to a good life. Think deeply about where you stand in life and ask, what is the cost to be where you need and want to be to make your life worth living? If the price is too high and if it causes fear, then start small. A lot of small changes will have one significant change over time. Don't aim at perfection. Aim at completion and being whole. How can you perfect something that is not whole? You're a work in progress aiming high through a logical strategy. It doesn't matter if, along the way, you make significant changes or if you stumble along the way. You're learning through experience and error. That's what makes you wise. Should you meet your heroes? It's a subjective question. On one hand, maybe you shouldn't meet your ideal. They may think you're insufficient, and they will expect more from you, which may disillusion you. You may be disappointed to find out they are not that great. On the other hand, they could be everything you expected, like Arnold Schwarzenegger meeting Stephen Lester Reeves. His ideal was actually everything he thought he was. A virtuous, strong, disciplined Hercules. In my experience, I saw all medical professionals as ideals due to my mom's conditioning, but I was wrong. I saw plenty of cognitive dissonance when working at a hospital during the COVID-19 epidemic. Luckily, it was the minority of medical staff who worked only for a paycheck. They behaved as if they hated their jobs, the patients, and the overwhelming work and stress swarming them. Some behaved as if they had just given up the battle. They did their jobs with resentment. They walked as if they could not carry their weight, as if the weight of neurosis and regret enchained them. I didn't find inspiration in the people I thought I would admire. It seemed as if they betrayed themselves, their inner calling. How could I respect someone who does not know themselves, who betrayed themselves by pursuing money? We do not live by food, water, and shelter alone. We live by meaning. Would you respect someone not living their version of a meaningful life? Many will disagree because why wouldn't you respect a doctor, a person who sacrificed years of studying to save lives? However, many assume that just because they went to medical school and acquired their license, then they must be exceptional medical professionals. But this type of thinking is deeply flawed. The hate for their jobs is reflected in their work. They simply do not care. They are there for the money, not to save lives. I saw patients neglected by nurses and doctors all over the hospital. This negligence led to the death of many patients. Their excuses? It was a DNR patient, the patient was too critical, etc. If a trauma patient came to the hospital COVID negative and died COVID positive, then you know a nurse who was working on a COVID patient fucked up because she did not take the proper PPE precautions. However, the opposite was also true. Those who loved their medical healthcare jobs excelled at what they did. Some of them lacked proper customer service skills but were great with their technical abilities. Many were stellar at identifying and fixing problems, thereby saving lives. Educated people hate being called stupid and are made to feel inferior because they think they know it all. Since they are educated, they believe that puts them above everyone else. But intelligence is not synonymous with wisdom. Pride blinds and makes people arrogant. There will come a time when our minds cannot take in new beliefs, like how people are too deep into their culture and become biased. Biases blind people and make them disregard any information that is not part of their current beliefs. This is the confirmation bias in play. That is why we must plant the seed of open-mindedness early so a tree can grow. But maybe it wasn't the individual's profession but their personal lives for their reason of private misery. So many have died of COVID-19, but not even the wealthy and most educated can escape the touch of death. No one was excluded from the virus. Laughter and joy I simply did not see when I first began my job. Instead, suffering and pain roamed the halls. Labels of COVID warnings hung on every single floor, and the trauma and pediatric floors overflowing with COVID patients. I didn't even dare to make jokes at the beginning of my job because every day was a funeral. But enough of these flawed ideals. Aim at the ideal. If you chase after excellence, you will become a magnet for positivity. Others will want to hang out with you. Winners hang out with winners, and losers hang out with losers. You can benefit not only from a genuine emotional relationship, but also from gaining connections that will get you further in life from winners. Many of us settle for less because we are less. You are with the partner you tolerate, and that tolerates you. Some people have few choices, so they get whatever is available. You may have the man of your life, as you put it, but you don't have the man of your dreams. Why? Because like and like attract. Increase your value as a man or woman by educating yourself, changing your personality flaws, earning your dream body, wealth and health, fixing your appearance, etc. After you increase your value, you have opportunities. The romantic partner will soon appear, and you have better options. You get to choose your destiny. You attract what you are. Avoid infectious people. Avoid those who get negative results in life through their actions and whining by not fixing themselves. Many people do not want to be saved. They enjoy complaining. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. Before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up the things that make him sick. Hippocrates. I consulted with my Socratic daemon, or, in Jungian terms, my shadow Lucian. Some of my solutions had to deal with hurting people emotionally and cutting them from my life, but it was in the name of good things. I wish I didn't, but I also wished they didn't possess the attributes that made me push them. But that's not how the world works. My daemon helped me understand how to conduct myself in a world and time I didn't belong. Understanding your shadow allows you to react appropriately when feeling lost because you know yourself and behave as a civilized individual. You must have a noble ideal and do your best to incarnate the characteristics you admire from them. Incarnation is the embodiment of a deity, spirit, or abstract quality in physical form. The incarnation of the perfect man who accepts his mortality and acts virtuously. It's the attempt to incarnate as an ideal that leads to great positive emotion. Doing things that matter to you releases dopamine in your brain. This not only makes you feel good, but also eases pain, reduces anxiety, and sparks creativity. It's not just an idea. It's how our brains are wired to seek and process new information. Through music and art, I justified my existence without being a sacrificial animal. The goal was to create my original music, something I would be proud of. It was about creating my legacy. The goal was filled with challenging obstacles and problems that would not be solved in one day. My Rome was going to take years to build. Many small changes began to take shape, from a simple sketch on a piece of paper to colorful artwork. Big ideas always have small beginnings. What determines how big they become is how much time you spend on them and how much you're willing to risk to get what you want and need. It's good to see your goals as a set of problems because you have identified them, and you can now find out how to solve them. When you undergo this journey, it begins to become fun. Realizing you're approaching your goal, like molding clay with your hands, your dreams do not seem so far away when they start taking shape. Jordan Peterson teaches us to imagine our goal as the highest possible aim. This shapes how we see the world, organizing our perceptions, emotions, and motivations. We structure our day around this aim, tackling challenges that arise. By solving them effectively, we stay on the path toward our goal. This way, we can focus on each day while pointing to the far distance. It infuses every moment with profound meaning. If all our daily actions relate to our ultimate aim, that's the very essence of a meaningful and fulfilling life. Knowing your ideal helps you understand and know yourself, which is how you win the game of life. In virtue, I trust. You must want to die for your virtues and not compromise them. They must be worth living. Common moral and ethical codes, especially what Nietzsche called false virtue, akin to modern virtue signaling, but with hopes of genuine existential security. Virtue signaling is publicly sharing opinions or sentiments to showcase one's positive character, social awareness, or moral stance on a specific issue. Nietzsche saw those trapped in these as living a slave existence, their inner spirit crushed by external forces dictating should and shouldn't, good and bad, according to him. Social norms and moral policing drained the beautiful chaos from one's soul, rendering them slaves to the hive mind. As a result, they were incapable of achieving true self-actualization or becoming the Übermensch, the Superman. The Übermensch, embodying a quasi-Ayn Randian objectivism, acts without concern for being labeled good or bad. They pursue their calling to attain the highest enlightenment, rising above the masses. The Übermensch represents a force of chaos, transcending binary moral structures and existing in their own superior reality, as per Nietzsche's perspective. They are like a dancing star, shining brightly and potentially going down in history as greatness, rather than succumbing to mediocrity like the masses. False virtue provides existential security for cowards who don't want to look within because they're afraid of the devil, afraid of themselves. People think themselves moral because they lack claws. They are cowardly behind bolted doors, are crushed spiritually, projecting their flaws onto others, and pretend they are holier than thou. Thus, they are incapable of reaching their full potential or self-actualization. Those who can hold morality and make it their law pursue their calling to reach their highest state of enlightenment, rising above the masses. Nietzsche's Bermensch is therefore a force of chaos, transcending binary moral and social structures and existing in their own superior reality. An attempt at greatness is better than living and dying like a mediocre coward. Furthermore, you must be conscious of your self-hate, because it is the fuel that makes you want to improve yourself. Self-hate makes us aware of our inadequacies. We can then change them and turn our flaws into virtues. I love those who are generous and give out of love and do not expect anything back. I witnessed how my generation had the mentality of the non-redeemable character. Because of several big mistakes, nihilism made them believe they couldn't make a 180-degree turn in all life factors. Well, I'm already tainted. Fuck it. If you're inside a hole and you are conscious that you're trying to get out of it, you don't dig deeper. If you do, then you're a dumbass. Did you make mistakes? Yes? Well, so did the rest of the world. It's never too late for changes. Most teachers are not wise enough to understand and teach the benefits of nonconformity. Instead, we got students in colossal debt nationwide to learn how to be sheep and earn a useless degree that doesn't even teach them how to live. What a disgrace. I learned at my university that the humanities were supposed to make us wiser, but it's failing at it. Some people are not intelligent enough to question or realize the absurdity of their existence. Intelligence is not synonymous with wisdom. Instead, people find comfort in religion, politics, or affiliation that brings a collectivist comfort. We have to become wise. You will live a better life if you're wise because you can sleep with a clear conscience. It's a matter of survival to become wise. You have to. Money guarantees food, water, and shelter, but rich people have the same problems that you have. Their kids will get sick, the rich will get divorced, and family members die. Money can give you more problems than solutions if you don't know how to use it. Live at least a life that is non-pathologically unwise. Before you criticize the structure of reality in society, you should first look at your inadequacies. Hedonism is an analgesic and also a fear-reducing element to pursuing a proper path. It creates positive emotion in the short term but not in the long term. You run into trouble with hedonism when you realize that what may make you happy today may not make you happy tomorrow. Hedonism will take its vengeance on you. Happiness comes and goes, but meaning is forever. Stupid ambitions blind, so live each day as if you were your last without giving up your virtues. All of your positive emotions will be experienced in relation to the goal. Positive emotion inhibits anxiety, disappointment, frustration, and pain. Align yourself with virtue. Your eyes aim at what you want and make sure what you wish is worthwhile and meaningful. Let that be attaining your fullest potential, but it begins when you know yourself. I didn't get a job at a trauma hospital to get front seats to people's tragedies. I did it because it fit my personality, and that's where responsibility was advocated. Not many people have the personality to see tragedy every day without being affected and preventing them to still have a normal life. I feel fortunate and gifted to not absorb the negativity and pain of others. I treat everyone with the same respect and care as I would treat my mother or father because that's how I would want someone to treat them. No type of neurosis has been caused by my profession. However, there reaches a juncture in every individual's journey where they face their breaking point, and interactions with specific individuals have the power to elicit profound empathy and bring tears. After 6 years of interacting with patients, it was a poignant interaction with an elderly Hispanic woman that finally moved me to tears. Like all my patients, my routine involved entering the room, explaining the procedure, drawing their blood, and departing. However, some patients require additional assistance, particularly if they are immobile. In the presence of an elderly, neglected, and confused patient, refusing assistance becomes an impossibility. After completing the blood draw, I spoke to the elderly lady in Spanish, saying, Okay, Mama, all done. She looked at me right in the eyes and responded, tinged with pain. Please help me. Please help me. My sons left me here and they don't come to visit me. I gave them everything, and they just forgot about me. They forgot me here. I love them. My legs hurt, and I don't know why. She, a diabetic amputee, was unaware that she was in a hospital. It was heartbreaking, for there was a certain essence about her that evoked memories of my mother. I saw echoes of my mother in her. I asked myself, what terrible deed has this poor woman done to deserve such heartache and living agony? I helped translate her once to her nurse. Then I left the room to weep in solitude. Each patient's story is a reminder of the shared human experience and the responsibility we bear in alleviating suffering, one interaction at a time. How do you cope with tragedy every day? You take one